turn it over to Justin Branch from Texas Forest Service, and we're going to talk about Ready, Set, Go. Thank you.
This program is Ready, Set, Go. It's what you need to get ready, to be ready to go, have everything where you need it, where you know where it's at, and be set if there's a fire in the region to where you can grab your stuff and go. This program teaches what to do before and during a wildfire, encourages the homeowners to take personal responsibility for your property, and it helps you to prepare a personal wildfire action plan. A good website to go to, and this is on the ending slide, is wildlandfirersg.org. That has a lot of helpful hints on what you need to do. Basically, this is just a rundown of what we use. The Wildland Urban Interface, we call it the WUI, and as y'all know, it's an area where homes and communities begin to intermingle with wildland vegetation. It's a view of actually where I work. This is the Jones State Forest off 1488, and all the way surrounding us are these communities. And this is a prime example of Wildland Urban Interface. Our main problems when working with the Wildland Urban Interface is the fuels around houses, how to get into properties, where properties are. Sometimes they're not, the numbers aren't visible on them. It's hard to find where they're at, but we do what we can. 80% of all wildfires in Texas occur within 2 miles of a community. Last year we had a bunch of them, and they ran through communities. So how do homes catch on fire? We'll go into what y'all can do as homeowners to reduce the risk of your house burning. 3 ways that a fire can ignite on a home is through direct flame contact, radiant heat, and embers. This is direct flame contact. You got radiant heat, where it's come across the ground level, but it's been so intense that it's burned the molding off the side of the house. And then you got your embers. And that is one of the main causes of WUI fires is embers, because they'll get into places. If there's a way for it to get in there, it's going to get in there. With a WUI home, we ask for defensible space. Most people ask for 30 feet. I ask for as much as you can possibly give me so I can better protect your home. Now, I'm not saying cut everything 30 feet. Trim the trees up, or remove dead vegetation, remove the dead trees. Put some proper fencing. Water the yard if you're able. I understand there's been a lot of water restrictions going on. We had that all last year. We try to push the main vegetation line at least 30 feet away. That way the fire departments can get in there, get their trucks in there, put on the water where it needs to be, or I can get my dozers into the area so that we can protect your home. How to create defensible space. Remove any continuous fuels by thinning the vegetation. Continuous fuel is basically where if it's burning, it can just keep going. The 30 feet just breaks that space up so that they can't continue burning. Fuels that are hanging in trees, a lot of you'll see in like yopons, you'll see the pine needles hanging in the yopon. It's a ladder fuel for that fire to move from the ground into the treetops or from the ground up to the top of your house. Horizontal is just everything that's on the ground. It's acting as a time fuse. And sooner or later it's going to get up there. It's going to find some way to do it. Here's a good picture of ladder fuels. This is before. You've got all your dead and dying hanging in the yopon. And this is what it does when fire hits it. When it goes up into the treetops, it's not just staying in the treetops, it's throwing embers. And if your home is within a mile, I believe, of where that ember is going up, it's within the ember zone. How to create defensible space. Remove or prune the vegetation next to windows. That's one of the biggest deals because the heat against the window can actually break the window and force the embers to go into the house. Choose plants that have a low flammability. And we'll get into those in just a minute. They're high moisture content plants. They're going to have broad, moist leaves, loose branching patterns, sparse leaves, deciduous plants, self-pruning, slow growth. But the big one is healthy plants. If they're dying, there's a problem. Highly flammable plants often have dense, dry leaves, needle or grass-like leaves. Evergreen plants retain their dead leaves and branches and are fast-growing. Yopon is the biggest one around here. It grows just everywhere. There's no way to stop it, unfortunately. Keep the 30-foot space lean, clean, and green. Put the right plant in the right place. And defensible space, they've got another website, it's firewise.org. This was a home on the Riley Road fire. The reason it survived, I'll say, is the fire came through here, but there was nothing for it to continue. When the fire department came through and sprayed it down, where else was it going to go? They had all their trees spaced out. They didn't have anything to go up into the ladder, or ladder fuels to get up there. And they had some growing up near the house, but those are all broadleaf plants, and they're going to be low flame. A home within 1 mile of a natural area is in the ember zone. That's when, like I said, when the flame goes up into the treetops and the embers start blowing, whichever direction that wind is blowing them, a mile that direction is how far those leaves or those embers can go. And that's just depending on like a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind. If your winds are stronger than that, you're looking at further than that. Ember fires destroy homes far from the actual flame front of the wildfire. Looking at Colorado Springs. They jumped the containment line. Those houses that were burned from embers. When you're building a house, use your ignition-resistant construction materials and defensible space. Those give the home the best chance to survive a wildfire and give us a better chance of getting in there and helping it to survive. The roof and soffits are the most vulnerable surfaces. Use fire-resistant materials for the roof, metal, tile, or composition shingles. And also come in and clean this out, clean out your gutters, because if an ember lands in there, it can be just a ticking time bomb. An ember, depending on what it lands in, can stay for 3 to 5 days before igniting into a fire. Embers gather under eaves and ignite exposed wood. Like I said, you want to keep the pine and leaf litter off the roofs, out of the gutters, away from the home. This is a prime example. We had a house fire that was ignited from a wildfire. The guy had built the house, built it all with fire-resistant material. But instead of using the double pane and tempered glass windows, he used single pane glass. Single pane glass does withstand heat, but not as well as double pane. And when the heat came up next to the house, it busted the single pane window and brought all those embers inside. This one, I believe the fire was actually about 15 to 20 feet from the home, and it still melted everything because the fire was so intense. A lot of your openings for underneath the home to let the air out, you want to use 1/8" metal mesh screening that keeps embers from being able to be sucked underneath and just lay there and burst into a fire later on. A lot of the houses that we saw burned in the Riley Road fire, the Dyer Mill fire, all of them had a wooden attachment to them of some sort. They're great deals, don't get me wrong, but in the event of a wildfire, it can create a house fire. Here we've got prime example. You got your dad, but what does he have underneath? You got gas cans, lawnmower, stacked lumber, got plants right next to the house. All an ember would have to do is get up in there and just lay to wait until it gets the right wind. Near your home, when you're building a fence, use non-combustible material near the home. Screen in underneath your deck. Again, that'll help embers from getting sucked up underneath there and laying in wait for it. This home survived, whereas this home didn't. This home had a wooden attachment. So did this house. But as it got closer, the fire department had actually gone in there and they put out the fire, but it came back to life and burned that last part of the fence. But the fire department had left the gate open. That's the only thing that kept it from going. It burned here at the base, but because they left that open, it didn't get to go across to the house. Window and AC units, we saw this a lot, where they put it in the window but put a board or something underneath. That board catches fire, it drops that window unit out of the house and just leaves a clear open window for anything to get inside. Prime example, you got your window unit on the ground from the house that burned from there. When you're getting set, you want to create a family disaster plan that includes meeting locations and communications plans. Have fire extinguishers on hand and train your family to use them. With your plan, it could be as simple as, okay, we have a fire back in the back pasture, we're all going to go to the front road, call the fire department, and let them handle it. Or we're having another Riley Road, we know these roads are closed down, so we need to know how to get to another place. Know where your gas and power shutoffs are for your home. Plan several different evacuation routes because you never know where the fire is going to be at. a simple emergency supply kit. That could be as simple as just your medicines that you need. Or, you know, you may have animals you need to get out of the way. What are you going to do for them? Where are you going to take them? Your bills, clothing, pictures, all that stuff. If you want to take it, have it all ready. Dress in appropriate clothing. Cotton, leather work boots, bandanas, long pants, long sleeve shirt. I know it's hot, but it'll keep those embers from getting on you, or it'll slow them down.